Those are the sounds of a celebration at a school in Kenya as students and parents greeted their visitors from Prince Edward Island. A group of 10 PEI youth and 5 adults spent the last 2 weeks in Kenya learning about the work that Farmers Helping Farmers is doing. The 2015 youth tour is part of the 35th anniversary celebration of the PEI-based volunteer organization. During their time in Kenya, the island teens visited half a dozen schools, planted gardens, spent a day in the life of a Kenyan woman. Nancy Russell and her 16-year-old son Tristan were part of the delegation. Now, she told us here at Island Morning about what she had planned to do while she was in Kenya. Of course, this trip, very special personal significance for Nancy and Tristan. Nancy got back to work yesterday, and we immediately hustled her into the studio here to talk about her trip to Kenya. Hi, Nancy. We haven't crossed paths much this summer, so it's so great to finally sit in a room with you.
Thank you.
How was it?
Caribou, which means welcome.
Ah, I have to ask. What was it like?
Oh, I've been getting that question a lot, and I just keep saying it was amazing.
Where exactly did you end up?
Well, we were in Meru County, which is about 5 hours north of Nairobi in the foothills of Mount Kenya. Interesting, though, I never did see Mount Kenya. It was misty the whole time, up in the clouds, so I guess I have to go back. Meru is actually a very large city. It's the 6th largest urban center in Kenya. So that was our base, but then we traveled out to these rural areas. Dusty roads, there was a lot of volcanic rock, and so the roads got really interesting. There was one time we had to actually walk in because it was too difficult for the vehicles to drive in. You know, there were goats and cattle grazing on the side of the road everywhere. Oxen pulling carts was the main mode of transportation. We stood out. And I learned the word Mzungu very quickly.
Mzungu?
Mzungu. And that means white person. Okay. Because that's the only word they have to describe us.
What sort of reception did you get when you got to those schools?
Again, that word, amazing. Most of the schools that we visited are twinned with schools in PEI, so they have this relationship through Farmers Helping Farmers, so they really pulled out the welcome mat for us. What we learned was that there would be a celebration at each school, which meant singing and dancing by the students, and then it would be the parents' turn, they would sing, and then they'd come to the audience and come and draw us up one at a time, and we ended up doing a lot of dancing.
Was this something you were prepared for? You weren't?
No,
okay.
No. So the first time, and then we knew, it was like, we're going to have to dance again. And especially for the teenage boys in the trip, yeah.
It was a little tough.
But wonderful as well. Like just the exuberance as they're singing and dancing, and lots of the... I can't really do it as well as they can. Oh. And speaking of food, everybody asks, well, what did you eat? And the traditional meal of choice at these celebrations is stew and rice. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these were cooked at cookhouses that were built with money from the Surrey Village Feast. So we got to see the benefit of what those cookhouses have done at these schools.
So this was really a running thread, this connection between PEI and this area of the world all through your trip then.
Yeah. One of the teachers who had been to Kenya before, a PEI teacher, she described it as you are a rock star in a way when you're associated with PEI and Farmers Helping Farmers. Like not in a rock star in the way that we think of it all glamorous and stuff, but they know the work that Farmers Helping Farmers has done and that PEI has done, and the Surrey Village Feast. You know, it's everywhere that we would go.
Humble rock stars nonetheless, because you did have to do some work. Right?
We were actually a source of entertainment in some of these rural areas because they had never seen Mzungu, the white people, doing work.
Okay.
So we went to these, we were divided into 3 groups, and we went to these shambas, or farms, and this was billed as a day in the life of a Kenyan woman. And they didn't believe that we were actually going to work. So the neighbors from all around came out to check us out. And we did have to. I had to do laundry by hand. We sorted potatoes. A couple of the kids, they harvested wheat by hand. So it was, we got our hands dirty for sure.
Do you think it changed the kids and the people who were on the trip, just seeing that there was that much manual work to do?
We learned how hard their lives are. And the constant theme is looking for water. We helped purchase some water tanks, and it's neat that our names are on water tanks in Kenya now, so that's sort of like part of our legacy. But, they have to walk and carry jugs, and we saw women collecting firewood on the side of the road, and then they would strap these bundles of wood to carry them on their heads and on their shoulders. And yeah, really, really hardworking people, and especially always looking for the elusive water.
When did you finally get to see the classrooms that you built?
We knew that there was going to be a big celebration at Kamukatha, and there was the big welcome. And then there was the ceremony dedicating the classrooms. And it was nice because two of the people who were on the youth tour knew my son Colum. So they did a presentation about him, which was then translated into Swahili. And we had also sent these books, biography I've written about Colum that was translated into Swahili. Those were at the school before we arrived. So I really had a sense that they knew the story. We did the ribbon cutting and had a chance to see the classrooms. And there's a lot of photos and videos of that available. So that was a really emotional moment.
And what did the classrooms look like? I mean, you finally got to see them firsthand.
There are two kinds of classrooms in Kenya. There are the ones that have the dirt floors, the wood walls where rain can come in. And those are what the classrooms were like before we replaced them. They're still very humble compared to what we're used to, but these ones have windows and a door and a cement floor, and the rain can't come in. No electricity, though, at Kamukatha, at least. And one of the things that we did there is the final part of our celebration at that school was we handed out 100 solar lights, many of which were, the money was raised by Kensington United Church, which is twinned with them. And the women, they sang and they danced as they got these solar lights because they're not on the electric grid at this point. It gets dark at 6:30. So for them to have these solar lights was amazing. They were thrilled.
I know what'll stay with you the most. What will stay with you second most?
Yeah, definitely the people. There was one point where we were at one of the schools and they wanted to touch our hair and our skin. They were always just fascinated. As they got braver and they would do that, and I was crouched down and had 10 kids braiding my hair and came up with just the most hilarious hairstyle ever. But I was proud to wear it for the rest of the day. I mentioned as they get braver, they actually did their imitations of what they think we sound like, which is they think that we sound like this. And we'd hear the kids talking like that. And we were like, what are they doing? But to them, that is how we, the Mzungu, sound. We got to the point where we had friendships. There was one school that we went to 4 times, and there were definitely some tears when we left that school for the last time.
Was it goodbye or see you later, I guess is the question.
Yeah, it would be Kwaheri, which is bye for now, because the coordinators of this trip, they asked all of the youth. We were at the Brussels airport, and they said, who would like to go back to Kenya? And everybody put up their hand.
So what happens over the next year and a half then?
I think that everybody will be sharing their stories and their photos. We'll be talking about what we learned about the work that Farmers Helping Farmers does, the kind of difference that it has made that we saw firsthand, and then probably more fundraising.
Do you want to stick with the classrooms, or is there another way that you saw that maybe you could help the community and people?
I think water tanks, the cookhouses, books. I know that the youth on the tour are planning already a used book sale because they thought they would open the cupboards in these classrooms and there would be like 5 books. So compared to what we have, it's just...
The walls of material that you see.
So it's such a striking difference. Yeah. Lots of ways to help.
Thanks so much for sharing this with us.
Asante sana. Thank you.
That is our Nancy Russell talking about her trip to Kenya. FarmersHelpingFarmers.ca or PEIKenya2015.wordpress.com.